Hey guys, so today we're gonna be making some simple straight skirts for beginners. This is like the easiest thing. This is the first thing you learn when you want to start sewing. And I'm gonna try as much as I can to make this tutorial as detailed as possible. And we're gonna need a couple of things. We're gonna need the measurements and we're gonna need some zipper. We're gonna need some scissors, some tape roll, some thread, some pins, and of course we're gonna need the fabric. And lastly, we're gonna need the hip curve, and then we're gonna need the sewing machine and some chalk. That's what the hip curve is. Next, we want to take our fabric and you want to measure the biggest measurement of your body. Like for this, it's gonna be the hip, so we want to measure 41. And when we measure the 41 inches, we're going to add about 2 inches of allowance. That is going to be the same allowance, and then the sewing and any extra allowance that we have. I'm just going to add. But before that, we're going to fold the fabric. When we're into 2, and when we're measuring, we're going to divide by 4. We're going to divide the measurements by 4. So you want to take your measurements and you want to divide the measurements by 4, because if you're cutting the front part of the skirt right now. So what I'm doing right now, I'm taking the measurements, the 41 inch, and then I'm going to add 2 inches of allowance, seam allowance, and then I'm going to cut it out. That way it's going to be easier for me to cut out the skirt. So I'm taking the full length of the skirt and I'm going to take out 1 inch for the band, the waistband. I'm going to take it out, and the full length of the skirt is 31 inches. So I'm going to take 31 inch, and then the 1 extra inch is for the hemming allowance. You know, when you fold the cloth in, that's called the hemming. I'm going to take that for the hem allowance. So now I'm cutting out the full length, and I'm going to cut out the piece of cloth that I'm going to need. I don't want to cut in. I don't want to waste fabric. So this is the best way for me when I'm sewing. This is the best way I do mine. And now I'm going to be taking the measurements of the waist, which is 30, and I'm going to fold it. I don't want to go into the calculation, so I'm just going to fold the tape into 4, as you can see. So it's going to be 7.2, I think, or 7.5. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take my chalk and I'll measure it and I'll mark it, and I'm going to add 1 inch allowance, as you can see. I'm going to go next to the body rise. I'm going to take the measurement of the body rise, which is from the waist to where the curve of your body begins, which is the hip. That's going to be 9 for my girl that I'm using to for my girl that has the measurement. It's going to be 9. So that's what I'm doing. And next I'm going to take the hip measurement and divide it by 4. And I'm going to, where the body rise measurement end from the waist to the hip, that's where I'm going to take the hip measurements. And then I'm going to add 1 inch allowance. I'm just cross-checking to see if the length is accurate. So that is it. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect the waist measurements to the hip measurements. That's what I'm going to do next. And I'm going to use the hip curve to get the perfect shape of the hip, so the waist doesn't get curved, and just to get the perfect waist of the shape of the hip. Because this is like a pencil skirt, so I'm going to try and make it as thin in the knees as possible. This is actually a little bit above the knee, or is it below? Like it's longer than the knee. Let me use that word. So now I'm gonna cut out the excess on the sides after taking my accurate measurement. Just gonna cut out the excesses. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and do the dart measurement, which is gonna be 4 from the waist. You're gonna measure 4 inch, and then you're gonna make a notch. That is the dart for the waist to give it the shape, you know, to give it that fitting shape. You guys are gonna see what it looks like at the end of the video. This is very important if you want the video to look good. I'm sorry, if you want the skirt to look good and have that shape. So now we're done with the front part of the skirt. We're going to go ahead and do the back part. So all you're going to do, you don't have to go ahead and measure it again over and over again. All you have to do, you just place it on the fabric that you want to use, and then you're going to make sure you add like 1 inch allowance on the side. I'm going to show you what the 1 inch allowance is. You see that? That's the 1 inch allowance, and then you're just going to trace and then you cut it out. That's all you have to do for the back. When you're cutting out the back, that's all you have to do. Just going to go ahead and cut it out. This is a very cheap fabric that I'm working with, and I'm not adding any lining to it because I just want to make this video as simple as possible so you guys don't get confused. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut it out the sides for where the zipper allowance is going to be and the slit at the back. So that's what I'm doing. And we're going to make a notch on the back as well. And then we're just going to cut it out. And then we are done. Next, we're going to go ahead and cut out the waistband. For this, we want a very tiny waistband. So we're just going to cut out 3 inches in length. And then we're going to take in width, 3 inches in width. And then we're going to take out 30 inches in length for the waist, which is the waist measurement. We're going to actually take out 31 inches. 1 inch is going to be the allowance, you know, the joining allowance. So at the end of the day, the band is going to be about 1 inch thick when we fold it, because you're going to take 3 inch and then you're going to fold it into 2 when you're sewing it to the skirt. You guys are going to see what it looks like when I'm done. So guys, if you haven't followed my YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so now. Please subscribe and like my videos. It's at Baker's Corner. Please, when you go up there, you see my pictures. I think there are lots of Baker's Corner up there. But please subscribe and follow. Subscribe and like my videos. I really appreciate it. So we're done cutting out the waistband. So we're going to go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and sew it. We're gonna take out, what we're gonna do now is, oh my bad, I'm rushing this, I'm sorry, because the video was I actually skipped the video because it's way too long. So we're just gonna take the length of the zipper, and we're gonna take, the zip is 9 inch long. We're gonna take out 7 inch from the waist down, and then we're gonna measure 15 inch, and then we're going to leave the other part of the skirts for the slit. So that's what I'm going to do. You see that? And then we're going to sew, leaving the zip space out. I'm going to sew all the way down. So we'll get to the length that we want, to how high we want the slits to be. So now we're gonna do the zip. I'm just gonna use a pin to pin it around so you guys can see how I attach the zip. I apologize, that's my son talking. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna sew the zipper. When we're done attaching it with the needle, with the pins, we're gonna sew it, and then I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like after it's sewn. So guys, the zipper is all done, it's fixed, and see how neat it looks. This is what you want to try as much as you can to make your work look really neat, because trust me, if you decide to do this as a business, that's what you're trying to look out for. And now we're going to do the dart. So we're going to take, from where we make the notch, we're going to sew down to 4 inches. And when we get to the 4 inches, we're going to try to make it as tiny as possible to give it that perfect shape. And please, if you have any questions about this video, please just reach out to me, and I'll try as much as I can to answer it. Answer any question at all. You see what the dart looks like? So we're gonna go ahead and do the other side. I already did that because I don't want the video to be too long. I just went ahead and do the dart on all 4 parts of the skirt. So now I'm just doing the hemming of the skirt. See, you fold it and then you fold it again. Oh, it's gonna be like 1 inch, and then that's how you do the hemming when you hem in your skirt. Or when you're hemming anything, you could hem in a blouse, whatever, that's how you do it. Just fold it about 1/2 inch, and then you fold it another 1/2 inch in, and that is it. Okay, I'm done hemming all around the skirt. I'm just cutting out the excess thread so it doesn't look messy. See, so now I'm just going to notch the slit, because this skirt doesn't have a lining in it. So what I do at the slit, I'm just going to notch, make a notch so it looks neat. See that? I'm going to go ahead and do it on the other side. And now I'm taking the accurate measurement of the skirt, and then I'm going to, because I don't want to go ahead and adjust, you know, so I'm just going to take the measurements. Like you guys know, as we measure the skirt and the waist is 30 inch, we're just going to take the 30 inch. This time, we're going to divide the measurement by 2, which is 15, and we're just going to mark it with our chalk, and then we'll sew all the way on both sides. Do the waist, and then we'll measure the hip, which is 41 inch. For this video, you can actually use your measurement and just divide it by 4 when you're cutting, and then when you're sewing and you're trying to get the accurate measurements, so you don't have to go ahead and do a lot of adjustments. You just measure it you just divide it by 2. That's what I do. So I think the skirt is all done. If I'm not, yeah, almost done. I'm gonna go ahead and cut out all the excess. thread, and then we'll go to the band. See, just want to notch it a little bit. Then you sew it, the good side facing the good side, and then you sew it all the way. And then we'll go ahead and do it on the other side. So that is done, and then you see what it looks like. So we're just gonna fold like we're hemming, and then cover it, just so we can cover the rough part of the skirt so it looks neat when we're done. So it's all done. This is what the skirt looks like. I'm gonna show you. See, this is super easy, guys. This is super easy. If you take your time, trust me, you're gonna know how to do this. So thanks again for watching, and stay tuned because I'll be dropping more tutorials. Bye bye.